On the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Beres here on a Tuesday. Good show on tap for you this morning. This is one where I really hope you join in the conversation, because I want what you do in your life, what your point of view is on this debate right now. A little bit of a discussion going on, not just locally, but nationally. You hear it now. It's kind of seeped into the political realm. You hear about various candidates stating their take on the issue of vaccines, vaccinations. We've heard about the measles outbreak. And we've heard about, questions. Should parents be forced to have to get vaccinations for their children when they go to school? What are the risks, if there are any? What are the benefits? Why is it important? Some people say to get vaccinated. Others say, no, I think for my child, I don't want him or her to be vaccinated. We're going to get into all of that this morning. We're going to take your calls and questions. And there are really two sides to this issue. Some parents choosing not to, some parents that choose to. There's experts on both sides that have strong opinions. The number 737-7587. We're lucky this morning. I'm going to be the moderator. I definitely have an opinion on this myself, and it may seep out some point during the conversation here. But my opinion is not the one that matters. It's our guests this morning. And you listen, decide for yourself, or call in and tell us what you think about vaccinations. With us this morning, two doctors. We have a chiropractor, Dr. Justin Ard. Nice to have you on, sir.
Good.
And you're here not really so much in the realm as a chiropractor, but as a parent who has chosen not to vaccinate your children, and you have a strong belief, and we'll get into this, I'll let you explain in a moment, why you don't think that's the best idea for your kids. And
Yes.
then we also have with us a pediatrician, Dr. Neil Seathaler. He's also a parent.
Thank you for having me.
And it's good to have you on, and you choose to have your children vaccinated. The lines are open. We'll get to your take on all of that in just a moment, but I want to give them each a chance to kind of give me their take on this controversy. We'll start with you, Justin. You have 3 children, and you've chosen not to have them vaccinated. Talk about why, and give me your take on this debate right now.
This debate is more about education for me. And I really here as an educated parent more than anything else, and that's who I would love to represent here. I do have 3 children. They're 8, 4, and 2. And after doing all of the research on it and being able to look through medical journals and everything else that's come up with, there's ultimate concerns here. And I speak to so many parents that have the same concerns. The moms, this is one of the, if not the hardest decision that you're going to have to make as a parent early on. And it's not that I'm anti-vaccine. I am absolutely pro-educated choice. That they need to understand what is going on with the process, the risk rewards with this, and then they need to have the ability to make an educated decision on their children's behalf.
Okay, fair enough. Doctor, how about you? Other point of view?
Yeah, one of the most important things as a pediatrician, but I think in medicine these days is the benefits we feel from vaccines.
Okay.
Some of these diseases aren't terribly deadly, but it's more than just saving lives. There's a lot of health-related costs and other complications these diseases that the vaccines prevent. And the medical research definitely supports that the vaccines are safe and that they are effective. And so I'm definitely fully supportive and try to spend as much time as I can with families trying to educate them, because I think it's about education. I agree, but about what side and what sort of information you want to believe versus not believe.
Okay, and so based on what he just said, Dr. Ard, in his opinion, it sounds like the research out there, and I'm not sure what you were studying, but clearly, I think the majority of medical professionals out there would side with him and say that vaccines do more good than harm. Not to say that there aren't exceptions, that everyone might have a reaction. There may be a case here or there where you don't get the result you want. But what have you come across that makes you believe differently? Because some could argue that you're putting your children at risk, and God forbid one of them gets measles. And measles, in rare cases, can kill. You don't vaccinate your child gets measles, your child dies. That's on you.
Agreed.
All right? Does that not bother you?
Nope.
Okay, talk about why.
Talk about why. There's not been a measles death in this country in the last decade, and over a decade, as a matter of fact.
Could it be because of the vaccinations?
Well, in the outbreaks that are happening right now, this is being from unvaccinated and vaccinated people. I think that this is a strong mixture of both, as a matter of fact.
You're saying some people who've been vaccinated are still getting the measles, so it's not foolproof 100%.
And where we get most of our information from is what we see on TV or the media. Okay, and there's such a media bias towards fear and fear in general, or shaming of this, is that most people have never read the actual research. They've never seen this before. Like that. This is why you're seeing MDs, you're seeing pediatricians, you're seeing other doctors all across the country come out and they're writing books, they're writing all these editorials saying that they think vaccines are dangerous, that they need more research on this. The overwhelming majority of medical research says that we need more research, that we're not sure about what's going on here.
And what is it, if you would, that you fear that these vaccines might do to your child if they are what is your concern?
Vaccines have been linked to several different studies, okay, like that, or to several different conditions. They've been linked to digestive health, like that, and digestive issues. Like that, well, your immune system comes from your digestive tract. A high majority of it does. So if you've lost this ability or this is damaged, then it's going to make you immunocompromised over a lifetime. It's been linked to neurological conditions like that. Everybody likes to throw out the one study that was done and falsified. It truly was, and I'm sure we'll talk about that.
On autism.
Yeah, like on autism. But a simple reference, there have been so many other studies that my question is why haven't we, like we immediately throw out that one study that was done because it was falsified, but like that there's been so many other things that have been done linking it into very, very similar situations, and simple searches will produce those. That we don't look at anything past that.
Yeah, we want to look as deep as we can.
Yeah, we never ask any questions on it.
Dr. Seathaler, how long have we been giving people vaccines in this country? I mean, going back how long?
Well, I believe we came up with the measles vaccine in 1963.
Okay.
And I know they've been giving vaccines way before that.
So there is a body of work to look back on, is there not?
No, there absolutely is.
Okay,
yes.
and what do you see in that body of work?
Well, I respectfully disagree that they're, because the medical consensus that the vaccines are beneficial and they do reduce death and they do reduce morbidity, hospitalizations, healthcare costs, and they're not as dangerous as people claim. I think the problem is people believe these diseases. We're a victim of the success of our vaccines. Is we don't think diseases are that serious because most of us have not seen these diseases. I've never seen polio. I've never seen measles.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
I'll admit that.
And you believe the reason for that is the vaccination
absolutely,
process.
yeah. And then, because of that, we think of these diseases as very benign, you know, but they're not. And then we tend to emphasize, and I think it's misinformation, but we tend to emphasize the side effects of these vaccines. And there's a lot of conjecture of there's autism and asthma, increasing autoimmune diseases, but there's no medical evidence to suggest the vaccines cause these. So,
Dr. the choice that you make for yourself, you're not sitting here saying that you want vaccines just banned or eliminated. Yep. You're open to letting each parent make a choice for what they'd like to do for their child or for themselves individually. Now, in Tennessee, of course, you know, I think they do allow parents to opt out in Tennessee for religious reasons, perhaps, maybe in some of those rare cases there. But otherwise, you know, public schools anyway, you know, require the children to be vaccinated. What is your biggest concern then? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to get at the heart here is you talk about your doubts about what the vaccine does. If that's the case, and maybe they're not as good as they are, what's the big conspiracy here? You think there's profiteering going on, that they're selling something that doesn't need to be sold? What's the motive for someone to be marketing or doctors prescribing vaccines if they don't really work or if they're harmful?
Gotcha. I think there's always money behind almost all the decisions that go into it. Yeah, I mean, come on. It doesn't really matter what realm you're talking about. And even if you look just as simple as most of our research or most of our documents come from the CDC on these topics. And the CDC, the chief of staff of the CDC or the CEO has always moved on to work for a pharmaceutical company. It just happened again last week like that. So they do research saying drugs are safe. They're next working at here like that. So it's a matter of do you trust where research comes from? But back to the earlier questions. In 2011, they did a study in Journal of Toxicology, and basically what they did was they took world statistics, okay, and ranked countries on the infant mortality rate. So infant mortality rate is a bench standard of how healthy children are. Okay, so it's how many deaths in the first year of life. And the United States, and then they regressed that against the number of vaccines given. And there were two major findings. By the way, the United States ranked 34th on that list. So there were 33 other countries that had better, healthier children in the first year of life than we did. Okay, they had fewer deaths than we did. They found two statistically significant findings in that. One is that as vaccines, and this was a very weak finding, by the way, is that as vaccines increased, okay, in the first year of life, the number of vaccines given, the death rate slightly rose with that. Two is that the overwhelming majority of this study showed that vaccines had nothing to do with the actual number of deaths specifically. Like it did rise a little bit. It was overwhelmingly nutrition and the access to running water, sanitation, and proper emergency medical supplies. So they took two countries that were used as examples were Mongolia and Gambia. So you're talking really rough third world countries here without those kind of medical accesses. And what they find with them is they have these vaccination rates that rival, it's like 98 and 99%. They're giving way more shots than we are in the first year of life. Like that. Yet their rates, their IMRs are sky high. They're ranking like in the hundreds.
And you think it clearly can be linked to the vaccines, or could there be other reasons?
This is back to the bottom line. Is back to the nutrition. This is about lifestyle counseling like that, and being able to keep the body. Even with the measles outbreak right now, there's been plenty of research that shows, even back to the 70s, that when children died of the measles, they were malnourished. Like that, it was an undernourishment problem. They had no access to running water, no access to sanitation.
So meaning they're weaker because of it, it makes them more susceptible.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you address those issues, then you don't think a vaccine's needed. Is that
absolutely,
perhaps?
absolutely, absolutely like that? Or the potential for a vaccine? Now, we have no idea.
Yeah.
Like that. What if that would be the answer? What if we could actually boost immune systems, which is we can. We know we can do that. If we could keep our bodies healthy enough to where they never had to go through that process at all.
But point taken. As we go to the break, I mean, I hear certainly there's something to be said for taking care of yourself and being healthy. But I mean, I'm healthy, all right? And I know that I've caught things that I've needed vaccines for. So, I mean, health helps, and maybe that helps me recover. But what do you think of that point? I mean, healthy living, can that be a substitute to some degree for vaccines to protect you? Is that inoculating you?
Well, one thing I'll agree with him about is, and this will probably come up at some point, and some people like to raise the point that measles mortality, death from when you got measles, the percentage of people who died did go down before they even introduced the measles vaccine, and that's because of better sanitation, better access to health care, including vitamin A, changing demographics, because people were having smaller families, which means there were a lower proportion of younger kids, and the mortality was increased the younger the children are. So, but and so, yeah, the mortality rate was going down, but the number of cases per population was not going down until the introduction of the measles vaccine. So, but there's definitely no doubt that all the things you talked about, nutrition and sanitation and access to healthcare, is very important. But there's other issues here, and we're talking about vaccines, and so. Those things are important, but we still need vaccines. Otherwise, we still have significant death and morbidity in our country.
Got to take a break on that note. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation, guys, and we'll take phone calls. We've got some coming in, a few lines open, 737-7587. You have a question for the two of them, or you maybe want to tell us your take on vaccines and how you handle it. We'll get to that and more right after this. Stay with us.